So what's the advantage of Kabbalah over other mystical systems? And in one answer, it's structure, it's architecture. Kabbalah works like a Swiss clockwork. So it has the power of structuring the vertical worlds. So if we look, I know a little bit about shamanism, I know a little bit about Gurdjieff, Enneagram, Almas. I studied that more than 10 years ago. So Kabbalah is like shamanism, like Gurdjieff, it's a way of looking vertically at reality. So that's, let's say, there are levels of human development. So we have the level of the body, that can also be our automatic behavior of the body. We have the level of our psyche. Then we can be trapped in illusions, trapped in patterns, trapped in mechanical way of being, as Gurdjieff calls this. Then we have the level of our essence, of our core. And then we have the highest level of purpose. Are we connected to purpose? So these are vertical levels of development. You could look at a country and say, okay, where's the general levels of development of a population? But also, where am I as a human being? On what level am I developed? And this has nothing to do with wealthy or rich, because rich sometimes simply means the habits, the lower level, what comes so naturally, you simply align it with where you can make a lot of money. So you can be undeveloped and very rich, and you can be very developed and relatively poor. Now, what's the advantage of Kabbalah over other mystical systems? So it's structure and architecture. So if we look, for example, in shamanism they talk about medicine, they talk about your heart's fire, that if you really want to understand somebody who he is in essence, then we have to look at it heart's fire. But beyond showing who it is and talking, you don't have structure how to create it. And that's important, because if we really want to get to the core of the self, we need to have clarity before we are able to become it. Because otherwise the lower self, well, it's a little bit like driving on a roundabout. If you're approaching a roundabout, the ego always goes right and the self has to go straight. But if you want to go straight in life, you have to know who you are, what's the form of yourself. And Kabbalah shows that there are three forces. You need force, you need form, and you need consciousness. So they show you what of the three forces you need to know, and then you're able to structure who you are in essence. If we look at other mystical systems like Gurdjieff is very strong at contrasting with reality. So human beings are trapped in mechanical habits, trapped in mechanical behavior. And for the lower levels, that's true often. We are trapped in automatical ways of thinking. We are trapped in automatical ways of acting. We are trapped in automatical ways of relating to others or not relating to ourselves. So the lower levels of development often has to do with breaking patterns. But Gurdjieff also doesn't show when we operate from ourself, our intrinsic motivation, our core strengths, our key identity, how do we do that? And Kabbalah shows that. So if we really want to get to the core of who we are, then there are these three forces. And the first one is chesed, that means love and kindness. So deep in your heart, beyond coping mechanisms, what's really the intrinsic motivation that's driving you? And this question sounds so simple, but to really get to the core often takes months or even years. Who am I beyond the drive of the ego, beyond perfectionism, beyond being strong, beyond making money, beyond helping people? Then at the other side we have Gvura, and Gvura often I translate it into strength, and you can translate it into many things, but in essence, what are our core strengths? What are the strengths that keep on repeating in our life? And usually are one or two, maximum three things. And often people operate at the lower level of strengths. That means they operate way more towards their habits and general strengths, and the strengths are not aligned with creating a high value. And the last part is Tiferet. That is the consciousness of who you are in essence. So at the lower level, we often have an image of who we are. And that image can be based upon our ego, upon the stories that we've heard, the stories about ourselves. And Tiferet often has way more to do with the archetype that we play in reality. Are we a sage? Are we an explorer? Are we a magician? And I am aware that only translating the self into an archetype is often not enough, because we have many more things that are so inherently part of who we are, of ourselves. Yet the archetype is a very fast way to give it structure, to give it language. So this is the added value and the advantage of Kabbalah over most other mystical systems. I'm not claiming that I know all other mystical systems. I talk here about shamanism, I know a little bit. I'm talking about Gurdjieff, which and the Enneagram, which I followed, official programs. The disadvantage of Kabbalah is application. So the tree of life and the philosophy of Tikkun Olam and Tikkun Nefesh, it's always very inspiring. But the weaknesses of Kabbalah is translating this architecture to something applicable. How do leaders develop? How do teams develop? How do organizations develop? And that's what we have been working on at the Circle of Girona on application. So we have translated the Tree of Life. How do you create competitive advantage for organizations? But really from the core. And we've also created solutions for how do you develop high performance teams with the Tree of Life. So then you start to merge the best of both worlds. But often, to be realistic, the application or the integration with business life is often the challenge for Kabbalah. Well, thank you and have a very good day.